Run fast, run flat at the 2025 ASICS Gold Coast Marathon. Entries open 2nd of December. Head to goldcoastmarathon.com.au for more info.
Born to the river, the black blood in my veins. I found out when I was just a child that your skin can bring you so much pain. Now I hear you say you got the best of both ways. Won't you come and take a walk in my shoes?
All right, this weekend's guest on the Inside Running podcast recently ran a PB of 2:12:33 at the Kobe Marathon last weekend. He is the current Australian half marathon champion from the Sunshine Coast half marathon earlier this year, and also recently placed third at the Melbourne half marathon in October. He's one of the most exciting runners coming out of Brisbane at the moment. Liam Boudin, welcome to the Inside Running podcast.
Thanks, Brady. Pleasure to be here. Thanks for having me.
No, thank you. You're recording this from your hotel room in Japan, just a couple of days after running that massive PB. So I am very, very thankful that you're giving up some holiday time to share some stories with our listeners.
Not at all. It's pretty cold out there, so I don't mind being stuck inside for a little bit.
Yeah, okay. So we're recording on the Wednesday. You've run the PB on the Sunday. What have the last 2 or 3 days looked like?
Sort of a little bit of travel in between. So we stayed at Kobe for the rest of the Sunday, and then sort of Monday afternoon, we packed up and headed out to Otsu, which is sort of a 20-minute train ride from Kyoto. And then we've been here since. So had the day off Monday, and then just went for sort of a pretty cruisy run along the lake here this morning, and then just did a bit of sightseeing, seeing some temples and stuff.
And the body's all right. I did see on your Strava, like 60 minutes. On the Tuesday after a 2:12 marathon's pretty impressive. You can bounce back that quick.
Yeah, not too bad. Like I've got a couple of blisters on the feet. Quads are a little bit banged up, but yeah, otherwise not too bad. Probably pulled up a little bit better than the first one in July, which is good.
Yeah, well, that was the 2:13:56 at the Gold Coast for 8th. Remember talking about it on the show, the fast half marathon split, maybe just over 65 minutes and a bit of a fade towards the end there, but it was also windy that day as well when you turned at the northern point. But 2 marathons in now, you got to be stoked with how they're going.
Yeah, like really enjoying the whole build up to it, and then the races itself have been really positive. Like the marathon was always something I thought I would naturally go towards. I just enjoy doing sort of the longer training sessions and then just like love running. So the more, the better for me. But yeah, so far the first two have gone pretty close to what I was sort of hoping for, which is really pleasing.
Yeah, did you expect you'd step up to the marathon? Like you're 27 now, like we're kind of seeing, I maybe make myself sound old here, but I remember when I was like getting into running, it was like people would go there at the end of their careers. Like we kind of saw Mottram try it, Benny Saint, Collis, who's your coach, but now we're kind of seeing this new age guys that are jumping into it mid kind of 20s, which I think is super exciting. But it was always your plan to get into it at this age?
Yeah, I think so. Like if I wasn't, had sort of a number of soft tissue and tendon injuries the last couple of years, which probably delayed my entry into the marathon. I was hoping to do one last year, but my body wasn't right. But then having Collis on board, like he was always one to suggest to step up to the marathon. Like you just learn a lot from the training and racing itself, and you can step back down. Because I guess the stigma was, I guess even a few years ago, if you jump to the marathon, it's too hard to go back in distance. Like you just don't have that, the fast twitch fibers to kind of go with guys doing the 10 or even the half marathon distance. But seeing so many guys now step up to the marathon and then jump back down and still PB in the shorter distances. So that's kind of where I'm going.
And do you think too, like opportunities to, make a team? Like, although you've come into it when they've decided to make the qualifier, like I think it's 2:06:30 next year for the
I
World
did see
Champs.
that.
So you got to beat the Australian record by like a minute. But at the same time, like maybe playing the point system, and I just think where your ranking would be for the year of running would be much higher over the marathon and probably the half than it would be on the track in the 5 and 10K.
Yeah, I think so. I tend to agree. It's probably like the door, like that's where it'll open up in the longer stuff. Obviously you've got like the established guys like Brett and Pat and then Andy now as well. They're sort of banging down the doors for those marathon selections. But I'd like to think that, like myself and then my mate Tim in Brisbane as well, we're sort of like the next crop of guys coming through, just looking at the path those guys have set, and I'd love to make a team one day in the marathon. Yeah, that's probably like the long term goal, I would say.
Well, it could be more like medium to short term, couldn't it? Like, let's say some of the top dogs don't want to go to World Champs next year. You put another one. Gold Coast this year, you were first Australian, but it wasn't Oceania Champs, was it? Those points would have come in handy.
Yeah, because they alternate it every second year, so it was the half this year, unfortunately for me. Yeah, so it'll be back to the marathon next year.
Yeah, but just say, playing the points game, a couple of, good solid performances, maybe an Oceania Championship if you go back to the Gold Coast Marathon next year. Not sure how close that would actually be to the World Championships. I'm really thinking out loud here, but I can see it more of a short to medium term than long term kind of thing for you.
Yeah, like I'll have a sort of a chat and debrief with Collis and sort of map out what next year looks like. That would definitely be sort of an option there as well, particularly if there's guys that aren't sort of prioritizing Tokyo in September next year. It might be, a spot or two up for grabs. I might look at doing sort of another international marathon sort of in that late Feb to April window. Otherwise, I just might, go all in on the Gold Coast and try and jack some points and then see where that takes me. But yeah, I think realistically, that's sort of an option there if I manage to stay healthy this next year.
Yeah. Tell me more about Kobe Marathon. Like we saw your mate Timmy Vincent kind of have his breakthrough there last year. I think the Gold Coast Marathon has this program where if you're the first Queenslander at the Gold Coast Marathon, you get a kind of free trip. Is that right? Maybe Louis McAfee, did he go one year as well?
He would have won it, but I think he was doing it when it was like the COVID kind of stuff was going on.
Yeah.
So
Yeah. They were
I
really
think they
strict
kind
too,
of
weren't they?
yeah, they sort of put a pause on it for a little bit. So then, yeah, Tim obviously won it last year because the Gold Coast one kind of doubles as our like Queensland Marathon champ. So if you're fortunate enough to take that win, they offer you a starting spot in Kobe with flights, accommodation, meals, and all sort of covered. So I accepted that, and then yeah, kind of knew basically from the Gold Coast race onwards that this would be my next one.
It's a pretty cool incentive, isn't it, for you guys to, lace up, especially when it's your debuts. It's just like, debut very close to home, get a free trip out of it, have your family and friends on course. Like it must make it really appealing for you guys when it comes to race selection.
Yeah, I think that's the way they've sort of like set it up. It's really like an introduction to like international racing. We had a few Gold Coast reps come over as well, so there's some familiar faces around the hotel that you can kind of link up with, and it feels like a really relaxed environment. The time zone obviously is really generous. It's like it's only an hour different from Brisbane, direct flight, so you basically get off the plane and you sort of do a couple of jogs, smaller workout, and you're ready to go for the weekend.
And it's a sister race for the Gold Coast Marathon. It's which I'm not sure that every race does. I know Sydney used to be sister race was Nobioka Marathon in Japan. I went on that trip once and had a brilliant experience because you kind of just get treated like this guest of the race. And have you been treated similar the last kind of 48, 72 hours?
A little bit, yeah. Like you do get recognized a bit, and then even from some of the Japanese guys that were also over there at the Gold Coast, they kind of came over and said hi and sort of asked how I was going. But yeah, there is like a sense of familiarity with the locals as well. They kind of even if they don't speak much English, you can kind of recognize when they say, "Oh, Australia and Gold Coast." So yeah, it's really nice that they kind of put you up and like you feel like you're sort of front and center.
Yeah. Tell us about the race. Like I had a look at your splits just on Strava today. Was there a hill from like 35 to 40k? Like looked pretty rough that last 7k, but you were locked in and very consistent up until then.
Yeah, so it's basically a an out and back course. You sort of go through I guess the CBD for the first 6 or 7 Ks, and then you hit like the main I guess highway all the way along the waterfront there at the 19k mark. You turn around and come back virtually on the same course, and then Yeah, from about 36, 37 Ks for the next few Ks, you come over, I guess it's kind of an iconic bridge at Kobe, this red bridge, the Port Liner. It sort of does climb a little bit. So that's probably the hardest part of the course from about 38 to maybe 40.5 Ks. Yeah, you go up over the bridge and then it's sort of downhill and flat to the finish.
And you were third. Like, were you like in with a chance to win it at one stage? How far was first in front of you? I think maybe second. I saw a little video. He was just like, almost an arm's length in front of you.
Yeah, so it was 7 seconds. So first Barnaba was seven in front of me, Timothy was three in front of me, and then it was myself. So there was yeah, 7 seconds between
Oh,
first and third. So yeah, not much in it.
yeah. Did you have a sniff? Like, did you feel, or were you hanging on for third, or like, did you ever get to the front?
To be honest, if we had another K in it, I would have backed myself to beat those guys. The way the sort of finish was set up, so once you got up and across the bridge, there was a couple of sort of two left-hand turns and then a right-hand turn. I always thought I was sort of gaining on those guys on the flat parts, but they're just so quick and graceful around those bends. And every time we took those turns, it felt like they probably put another step or two in front of me. And then it was sort of like a 700 meters straight down the finish, and I was sort of charging behind them, but just ran out of road in the end.
Yeah, wow. And the crowd over there would have been pretty up and about. Like, they love their marathon running in Japan.
Yeah, they do. It's funny because you've obviously been here a few times and you go, on their trains and just out in public and it's really quiet. Everyone's quite respectful. And then as soon as the gun goes off, you've got thousands of Japanese locals just, screaming their lungs out at you basically the whole way, which is really cool.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. It's like polite cheering though, still, isn't it? Like, they're not like yobbos about it. Like, they're very well mannered, but they can create a good
They
atmosphere.
are. Mm.
Yeah, cool. Is that like, is it a gold label race, silver? Like, that's a pretty big race for you to be getting on the podium of.
Yeah, I'm not too sure. I'd have to look it up. I don't think it's gold. Yeah, it might be silver or bronze or something.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. So then, like, when I was looking at your splits, the slower, like 35 to 40, you guys all slowed together. Like, you ran 16:21 for that. So that was you guys, yeah, just in a race.
Essentially, yeah, I was sort of a bit adrift of those guys from basically 28 Ks to 35. They were kind of probably the most 100, meters in front. And then I was kind of fourth by myself and I managed to kind of claw my way back just before we got to the bridge. But yeah, as I said before, it's sort of like that 35 to 40K split. It's definitely the hardest part of the course. And it was a really warm day as well. Like at that point, it's close to 11 in the morning. You've run, 35 plus K in the legs. It didn't feel like we were slowing down, but obviously that was, yeah, the slowest part of the race. And at that stage, I guess there was a lot of sort of sideways glancing and just seeing how each other were feeling, I guess.
Yeah. What did you learn at this one? That, because I'm assuming you learn a lot at Gold Coast. Like, went with the lead pack, which was very ballsy, and then very, like, I guess it would have been probably the toughest thing you've ever done. Get from that turnaround at the northerly point to the finish line. Like, I think you were rolling like 3:30, 3:35 pace for that last 7K. Like, you still held on for a 2:13 high. But did you learn anything the second time around that you didn't pick up at the Gold Coast?
Yeah, there definitely were a few things. If I had my time again, probably wouldn't have gone with that front pack. I guess it was just like ignorance and being my first marathon. It's like, oh, I'll be fine. I can do that for, 35 Ks. Obviously, it didn't sort of manage to hold on quite enough. But this time around, I made sure that I was like getting my nutrition in a lot earlier. I think by the halfway on Sunday, I'd already had sort of three gels and a couple of carb drinks. So I was making sure I was getting in like the fluids and the carbs, not for that point in the race, but for, 30, 45 minutes down the track. So I was definitely a lot better fueled once I hit that 30K mark. And I guess as well was just trying to sort of shut off mentally for as long as I could. Like we had a really big group of probably 12 to 15 guys on the weekend, and I just made sure that I was kind of at the back of the group, not really doing much of the front running. I kind of just wanted to sit in and just just tick the Ks along. So they were probably the two biggest lessons that I guess I learnt from the Gold Coast, not trying to do anything too stupid and not trying to respond to like every surge and every move too early.
Yeah, almost just go to sleep. Like just nail the nutrition and just go to sleep in the pack and stay out of trouble almost. Was the nutrition plan, like that's quite heavy if you're talking, 3 gels of 25, 30 grams carb intake and then some drinks along the side. Like that must be close to, 90, 100 grams per hour. Was that similar to what you did at Gold Coast? Or that's something you've improved on as well?
Yeah, that was probably like double of what I had at the Gold Coast. I think I had 3 gels for the whole race,
Yeah,
and
wow.
yeah, I was maybe knocking off a third of my drink bottles during those stations. This time, I reckon I spent probably like a quarter or a fifth of the race either holding a gel or a bottle. Like not trying to like neck it or get it down as fast as I can, just kind of like nurse it almost and just make sure I finish it. So that I was doing that, and I think it really helped towards the back end.
Yeah. Do you think, like, this day and age of Australian marathoning? I was having this conversation with someone last night, and he was kind of making the point that our 214 guys back in the day are just now 210, 211 guys because of the shoe technology. And I was having the argument that it's like, no, but they know so much more about nutrition now and the training methods of, advanced and stuff as well. I definitely am not playing down the impact of the shoes, but you're getting to compete in this era where it's like we got all the research for the nutrition and we got access to what every single elite coach has given their marathoners, and it's like, and we've got these amazing shoes that we also get to put in our feet kind of for performance and everyday running to kind of aid recovery. So like you must just be so excited about where we're at as a sport.
Yeah, definitely. It's probably like, aside from the shoe technology, it's definitely the most advanced that, running has been. You've got, different brands working like independently and collaboratively to not only increase, the benefits of performance running shoes, but nutrition as well. It's sort of a well-rounded approach to marathon running now. It's not just, yeah, you can do the training, but, if you've got a shit nutrition plan on the day, you're going to come unstuck regardless of how fit and firing you are leading into the race. And I even sort of chatted to Collis about it. Like even, he was running sort of 5, 10 years ago at the highest level. And he said like the advice back then was like, you try and run for as long as you can without nutrition. Which is complete opposite now. It's like, you get 15 minutes into the race and you're already starting to get your carbs in for an hour's time. So I think, with the shoes, obviously they're making a significant difference, but the nutrition as well. And you couple those together and naturally your times are going to drop.
Yeah, yeah, exciting times. Hey, do you want to go back? I want to hear about, I feel like, I don't know, maybe it's a Victorian, New South Wales, like southern part of Australian thing, but I feel like we don't know that much about you down here. Like, we know you've been up there in Queensland, we know the haircut, like, we know who you are to look at, but, like, I even messaged a few people today and I'm like, tell me more about Liam, and there wasn't much getting around. So, can I throw some quick fire questions at you to kind of introduce you to the listeners?
Absolutely. Yeah. Shoot
Oh, so,
away.
so what do you do for a job? What's work and look like?
So I'm a solicitor, or a lawyer, I guess, depending on where you are in Australia. But I work 4 days a week at the moment. So Tuesdays on a normal week I'll have off, and then generally Fridays I'll work from home, and then yeah, in the office 3 days a week.
Okay, so like when you say that, I just go to like suits straight away. Like that's what you're doing. That's what your day to day
Sure.
looks like.
Except yeah, Brisbane it's a bit hot to wear suits. It's sort of
Okay.
yeah, roll up sleeves, open collar.
Yeah, yeah. But what does a day look like? Like a lot of paperwork, a lot of whiskey, like big like leather chairs and stuff in the office.
I wish I could say that, but yeah, it's a bit different to that. I mean, I've only sort of been in the legal industry for 3, 4 years now, but there's sort of a push towards paper light or paperless firms. So the one I am, it's really modern and adaptable, so I don't have to deal with much paper. Thankfully, it's just all online, which is nice.
And is it a certain like area of solicitor law, like property or I don't know, like you fill me in. I'm a school teacher. This is like way over my head kind of thing.
No, you're spot on there. It's sort of like a specialist in like the medicine field.
Okay.
Yeah, so I'm sort of in body corporate or like sort of property commercial law. So there's a bit of overlay with the different areas. But yeah, because there's so many different areas of law, you can't specialize in everything. You tend to kind of get thrown into an area, and I've dabbled in a few, but yeah, at the moment I'm sort of in body corporate property work.
Yeah. Stressful, like long days?
No, it's not too bad. Like typically I'll get into the office at 8:30, 8:45, and then sort of out by, 5:15, 5:30. But yeah, for those, 8 hours that I am in the office, it's pretty non-stop. But yeah, I sort of switch off after that and yeah, kind of do my own thing. So for the most part, it's pretty good.
Yeah. Training group, training partners. With Collis now, but spend a lot of time with Jacko Elliott as well.
Yeah, that's right. So I was with Gold Coast Run Co for sort of close to 4 years, I think. Joined Collis early last year, I think March. And then we've got a really good group. So basically all of us in Queensland. So there's Jack Bruce, Stu Thomas, Cal Davies. We're all with Collis, and we meet up sort of Tuesday, Fridays at the moment, generally at UQ for our sessions.
Yeah. And then like you meet up for many runs during the week, or is it just the main sessions you'll do together?
Yeah, just the sessions. Like Brucey as well. He's not an admitted lawyer at this stage, but he is working full time in that field as well. So most of us, we sort of live in different sides of the city. Like Brucey's north side, Jude's all the way out at Ipswich. Cal's pretty close to me, but yeah, for the easy recovery runs, we all just kind of do our own thing.
Yeah, I want to get back to that. We'll get back and deep into some training talk a bit later on. What kind of books you reading, TV you're watching?
I don't watch too much TV. I'm a sort of an avid sports fan, so I'm keen for cricket season to come along and watch some Big Bash and Test cricket. Mad AFL supporter, so a lot of my weekends is spent just watching sort of footy and stuff. Recently just finished that Chaos series with Jeff Goldblum on Netflix, which was different, but I enjoyed that.
Okay.
Books, I tend to steer clear of kind of like sports biographies. I find them, yeah, I kind of just want to read to kind of take me away from what I'm doing day to day. So sort of a fiction fan at the moment. I'm reading that Iron Flame Fourth Wing kind of series at the moment.
Yeah. I agree with you. Get away from the sports stuff. Go into fairyland for a while. Yeah, that's good.
That's it, yeah.
Who do you follow in the footy, AFL?
So most of my family's Melbourne based, so I'm a Essendon Bombers supporter.
Oh, poor thing.
Unfortunately.
Yeah, you could have went Brisbane Lions and seen your team win like 5 premierships over your lifetime.
That's it, yeah. I don't actually recall. I was too young the last time Essendon won a final, so
Yeah, there's all
it's been
those
pretty
memes
slim.
that come this time of the year. Every year.
Yeah, about 6,000 days since a finals win.
Yeah, okay. What about like any hobbies outside of running? Any other things you like spend your time doing other than watching sport and participating in sport?
Not really. Like, I'm pretty lazy on the weekends. My girlfriend Jazz, she's living at the Gold Coast at the moment. So we kind of rotate, I guess, when she comes up to Brisbane and I go down the coast. So we just spend a lot of the time kind of cafe hopping, I guess, going out for dinners and stuff, hanging with mates like Tim and some of the other Gold Coast boys when I'm down there as well. But yeah, not a lot of time for hobbies, unfortunately. When I was a bit younger, I enjoyed sort of drawing and painting and stuff. But yeah, my creativity's kind of gone aside. It's just black letter law. Unfortunately, it takes up most of my time.
Yeah. What about what's on the playlist? Music?
I sort of listen to a bit of variety of stuff. I used to enjoy some of the older, like The Weeknd, their original stuff. I enjoy Coldplay, like Imagine Dragons and stuff as well.
Yep.
But I tend to kind of listen to podcasts when I'm doing my easy runs, so I don't really listen to a heap of music.
Okay, sport podcasts, or you get into like the AFL and like just random stuff? Or your kind of podcast?
No, yeah, a bit of variety of stuff, like the Howie Games, if he gets some interesting guests on.
Yeah.
I enjoy that. Yeah, and then I listen to like the Marty Sheargold as well, just a bit of, yeah, I guess
Light
radio
entertainment.
talk.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. Something I can just like not really pay attention to. Hamish and Andy as well is good for just deleting 50 minutes of your time.
Yeah, and there's some good laughs in there. You find yourself running
That's
out
it.
the bush and just chuckling along. Yeah, that's good.
Yeah.
Hey, I'm going to read your PBs out. Tell me some stories about each of them. So the 1500, 349. Anything significant happen in that race on the track?
Not really. I think I was with my sort of first, I guess, serious coach at the time. That was when I was thinking I'd be more of a middle distance runner. I think I did that PB in like 2018, 2019 before COVID hit, and then really haven't touched that distance since.
Do you think you'll get back there? Or is it too risky getting that kind of top end speed?
I don't know. I'd love to take them time off that one, but yeah, I just don't know where I would fit it in. Yeah,
Yeah.
maybe it's something when I'm well past it and then just want to thrash myself on the track and just, tear my hamstrings off the
Oh, you
bone,
could do a little speed block before you get back into the marathon work. A lot of people seem to do
potentially.
that.
Yeah, you never know.
Another one, 3K, probably rarely run this as well, 8:02. Have I got that right?
Yes, I think I did that in Sydney, maybe early last year or something at the
Yep,
Sydney Track
3K,
Classic.
yep.
Yeah, it was almost dead last in 8 minutes, but I was happy with that. But at the time, like, yeah, I had osteitis pubis, and I think I basically just broke myself trying to do that race.
Oh, terrible injury. How'd you get rid of it? There's some listeners who will be like, that is hurting them at the moment.
Yeah, unfortunately, it's one where depending on the severity of it, it's just no running for a long time. Mine was really bad. I had dual adductor tendinopathy. I was close to ripping one off the like basically the tendon. So a few more weeks of high intensity running, it probably was career ending. So I had 3 months of no running, just basically cycling and a ton of gym work. The strength stuff is what kind of eliminated it in the end, just strengthening all my hip muscles up.
And that was early last year. Like we're talking April, May of last year.
That's yeah. So once we did the nationals in Brisbane, like I was living off anti-inflams for probably 6 months at that time. Got the MRI scan, it was pretty bad, so had to pull the trigger, and that's why I didn't do basically any road running last year. But I'd been dealing with osteitis pubis for like 18 months before then. It's a sort of injury where you're like, you wake up one day and you're like, I think I'm getting better. You'll do a speed workout and then you can't walk the next day. And then you kind of just keep going down that cycle. And then before you know it, you can't function without, anti-inflams. And I was like, that's not really healthy. I should do something about this, particularly if I want to step up to the marathon.
Yeah, yeah, smart man. And it must give you a lot of, I don't know, like, better be proud of the way you've built back up. And we see these results this year, but knowing how much trouble you're in last year must be very rewarding.
Yeah, like I was doing sort of 14-hour weeks on the bike. So 2 hours a day, just by myself on the indoor trainer outside watching shitty Netflix shows in the pitch black because it was sort of winter, with the goal of wanting to race Gold Coast the following year. So looking back, I'm really proud of the way I kind of just knuckled down, and got rid of it. And then I'd like to think that that sort of mentality back then is kind of helping now as well.
Yeah, you're a driven man. The 5K, 14:03. I feel like you should be a 13 something kind of man. So does that annoy you that it's 14:03?
Yeah, the 3K and the 5K ones, they do bug me. Um, it's only a few seconds, but I don't know. I've just felt not like unlucky, but I just haven't been like fit in like a race where it's just like I can sit in, at that 13:30, 13:40 pace and just like switch off and kind of just tick that off. Again, I think I did that one in like Adelaide last year where I was just hanging on, my groins were hanging on for dear life. So I'd like to think if I did some track races now in the shape that I am, I can, shave some time off those ones. But again, it's just a matter of like, where do I fit that in if I'm wanting to stay on the roads?
Yeah, and the limited opportunities. Like there might be two sub 14-minute 5K races in Australia for the year. And if you're not fit or you've
Yeah,
got a marathon coming up or whatever, like they're just gone. You just miss them.
that's it. Yeah. And then like training track stuff in Brisbane this time of year, it's really tough, like doing the high intensity work and the heat and humidity. I don't know, previous years, I'd always get to like March and I'd just get injured, whether it was a stress fracture or like the osteitis pubis would flare up, for whatever reason. I'd just never get to those races in like the shape I wanted to be. And it's probably reflected in those times as something that I would love to better, I guess, moving forward.
Yeah. So the 10K continues the trend of running low in the minutes without dipping under. 29:06 on the track for Zatopek last year. I do have a 28.56 though for Bridge to Brisbane. You know more about that race than me. Is it legit 10K? Doesn't come up on your profile. What are the whispers around the streets of Brisbane? Can we count that as a PB? And are you a 28-minute man?
So if you counted it from last year, previously, you'd be correct in that it probably wasn't a legit 10K. They changed the course this year, and it's actually a 10K.
Okay,
So
good. So you
yeah,
are.
for all the locals that do it from this year onwards, yeah, you can claim that as your best. So I'm gonna take that one.
Okay, good. And is it's hilly? Like you got to go over a bridge, don't you? And then come down it?
Yeah, so you start at the southern end of the Gateway Bridge, and then like at the base of it, you literally spend the first 2.5 Ks running up and then running down the Gateway, and then it flattens out. But then again, it kicks up at the ICB towards the finish. So yeah, I mean, it's a race that you're definitely not traveling for if you want a fast 10K. It's brutal, but for us, I guess it's kind of like our city to surf. It's pretty iconic to run over that bridge.
Yeah, and I remember like looking at these results this year, and when I think Tim Vincent was fourth, and I was just like, we got to start paying more attention to what's happening in Brisbane, Gold Coast at the moment, because if Tim Vincent's coming fourth in a 10K road race, it means it's quite competitive up there now.
Yeah, definitely. Like Tim won it last year, so he was kind of the man to beat. But yeah, like Jude was stepping up. He wanted to have a crack at the 10K, and then Brucey as well. He's just always consistent. So for me, like that was a really big one. I wanted to kind of sort of go all out for that one. It's sort of a big like publicity event, I guess. Like everyone kind of knows, even when I'm walking through the city or if I'm at work, people will come and chat to you about it. Like, oh, you're a Brisbane winner. They kind of recognize that first before any other race.
That's so cool. I love that. Still, like it's almost like small town vibes. Like the city really gets around it.
It is pretty cool. Yeah, I enjoy that. Yeah, it's a good race to do.
Because Reese Edwards, no one's bailing him up at Melbourne, in the streets of Melbourne saying, oh, you won Melbourne Marathon.
Yeah, it's a funny one. I don't know. There's just some events that just, I don't know, have that prestige. I guess I've never done the city to surf, but I imagine if you're a local and you win that race, you
Yeah,
get
yeah.
you're treated quite well.
Yeah, Ed Goddard winning that race could be good for his brand around Sydney for sure. An iconic guy like him.
Yeah, I agree. I think, yeah, it definitely wouldn't do any harm winning that one.
Yeah, you need tradition, I feel, and you need like a unique race. It's got, it's got a bridge in it, it's got a point to point, whatever it is, like something that the punters on the street, not that they're on the street, they're just traveling to work or whatever, they're something they can relate to.
Yeah, that's it. And like a lot of people, they've obviously for local Brisbaneites, they've driven over the gateway. So they're like, oh, do you run over that? So they kind of know that, if your car's struggling to make it up the bridge, you've got to run over it. So they kind of appreciate that, I guess.
The 2025 ASICS Gold Coast Marathon is set to be epic this year. Run your new PB on the flat, fast, scenic course set alongside the stunning Gold Coast beaches. Over 60% of finishers report setting a personal best at the Gold Coast Marathon, and it's not hard to see why, with such a great course. The 2025 event will host the Oceania Marathon Championships, drawing fantastic local running talent to the Gold Coast. Both the full and half marathon are World Athletic Label races, the only race in Australia with dual labels. Whether you're running or spectating, the 2025 ASICS Gold Coast Marathon is the place to be in July. Entries open on the 2nd of December 2025 and they will go quickly. Head to goldcoastmarathon.com.au for more information. Yeah, and then the half marathon. This was leading into your big marathon PB. Third at Melbourne Marathon, 62.32. Andy off the front, and you and Have to kind of battling out for second and third.
Yeah, that one, I'm happy with that one because I was sort of in the middle of this marathon build, so I knew I wasn't going to have the sharpness in my legs. If I was just prioritizing that one for the season. Andy was just in unreal shape, and basically from 4K onwards, he just front ran the whole thing, and then coasted home. And then Have to and I was sort of, I guess, jostling second and third the whole way, and then he sort of pulled away a little bit towards the end, and I sort of held on for third. So I'm pretty happy with that one. I don't think Melbourne is like a super fast course, and it was quite windy that day as well. We didn't really feel like we got the benefit of a tailwind at any point. So to run sort of a PB there, considering the mara training, I was pretty happy with that.
And what did, like, you talk about being deep in the marathon training at that stage, like what did it look like? Were you on the I guess you could call it that traditional, like Melbourne Track Club program where we had Izzy on the show last week and she kind of follows the same thing. She's maybe adding a few extra Ks here and there for some of her easy jogging and stuff. And but those main Friday ones every week, you on that kind of program?
Yeah, pretty similar. Like you do start with like that 20K of 1K on, 1K float, and then kind of step up basically a K longer each week. So the following week, 7 2Ks, and 6 3Ks. The Melbourne race was kind of a substitute for what would have been like 5 by 4K, and then sort of did 4 by 5K the following week. I know with like the previous Gold Coast build, the workout 3 weeks from the race is kind of the main bigger one. You'd spend sort of close to 2 hours on the legs that day. For me this year, this build, sorry, it was 2 by 10K with a 5K at the end, or with 2 minutes float in between. And basically, once you get through that with your standard kind of 2 hour 30 long runs, you kind of taper off. So yeah, nothing sort of super scientific about it all. It's basically just a natural build, eight to 10 weeks before the race.
Yeah, and you were still getting on the track earlier in the week? Like, would you still do something faster on a Tuesday?
Yeah, Tuesdays it was still prioritizing running faster than marathon work. I'd always have a slightly different workout to the other guys that obviously weren't training for a marathon. They'd have sort of, 200, 400 meter reps sprinkled throughout. But for the most part, we'd do a lot of like 8 by 1K, 5 by a mile, or sort of eight or 9Ks worth of work at faster than marathon pace. So it might be sort of, anywhere between 2:45s to 2:55s.
Yeah, okay. So you're kind of talking faster than like half marathon. Like you're talking like 10K kind of effort. Would that describe it well?
Yeah, I reckon in between 10K and half marathon
yeah.
effort. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah, so that keeps the legs ticking over, and then like pretty much you were hitting some big weeks, like getting over 200K quite consistently, and then you just do as much jogging as you can in between to try to, ensure you can still hit the quality in the workouts. And do you get freedom to choose how much you kind of jog in between, similar to Izzy?
I did in the first build, but yeah, we had a really good chat with Collis. He was up sort of in September, and he had sort of a meeting, I guess, with all of us in Brisbane individually, and he said moving forward he'd like a bit more kind of, I guess, control over what we do in the days that we aren't doing sessions. So like basically from the Sunday afternoon, I'd know the whole week what I was doing from Monday to Sunday that following week. So I knew on Monday I was doing, 70 minutes in the morning, 35 to 40 minutes in the afternoon. And that was basically what I was doing in between the workout days.
That'd be good too, wouldn't it? Like takes all the thinking out of it.
I enjoyed it. Yeah, it's just like open up Training Peaks. Sweet, I've got that for the day. Just tick it off, move on to the next one.
Yeah. Yeah, get into the office and actually do your job. Spend the mental energy, in that direction.
That's it, yeah.
Hey, give us the splits for the 2 by 10K with 2 minutes float. What do we hit it?
The goal was set at, so both the 10Ks were 3:05s. So I think I hit like 30:48 and then 30:55. So basically bang on for those ones. And then the 5K was supposed to be at 3 minute Ks. And then I think I hit 15:02 or something. So as close as I could. Yeah, it was getting really uncomfortable weather-wise in Brisbane. Thankfully, I had my girlfriend on the bike, so she was just basically feeding me carbs for the whole time, which was, yeah, I don't know if I could hit those splits just by myself trying to grab a drink bottle off my car.
Yeah, give us some numbers. Like, are we talking 25 degrees, 80% humidity? What kind of temperatures you doing these in?
To be honest, towards the back end of the build, I was driving to UQ at like 5:45 in the morning, and the car would read it at like 27 degrees, and then it was like 85% humidity at a minimum. Like, it's just, you don't even need a shirt when you step outside. It's just, yeah, it's disgusting.
Yeah, which must be, impressive that you can hit those kind of quality numbers. And it's a long workout too. Like, you're out there for 25K. Like, it's not like you can just bang them on a fartlek and you're like, it's going to hurt, but it's over in 20 minutes.
Yeah, it's like you're starting at, the UQ road, and it's like, I'm going to be out here for 80 minutes and I'm already, heart rate is significantly higher than it would have been in winter.
Yeah.
So it does prime you mentally, I think.
You've been handling the mileage pretty well, like, both your marathons, you got up that consistently 200 Ks. Any niggles and stuff through it, like that osteitis pubis hasn't come back, like you seem to be handling it? Because there's a lot of Australian marathoners who can't handle that.
Yeah, I mean, thankfully that stuff hasn't come back, touch wood. I've always been consistent with my gym stuff. I always do 2 workouts a week in the gym, and that's kind of kept that stuff at bay. This time around, I had sort of a bit of mild Achilles. I guess it was sort of tendinopathy. It was kind of at the insertion point. It was quite sore at times, but I didn't have to change my training too much. And then I don't know if it was a symptom of that, but then my left hamstring was a bit sore at times as well. But I was getting weekly massages and sort of physio treatment, so I kind of was able to kind of keep those at relatively pain free. I guess a 1 or 2 out of 10.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty rare that you can run those kind of mileages without having something kind of pop up. So it sounds like you're managing a few little niggles there, as to be expected. Hey, what's the rest of the year going to look like? You shut things down now? Like Brisbane, be pretty tough to train in. Festive time of the year. I can imagine drinking beers and doing some social stuff. It might be a bit more appealing.
Not too sure. I'll, yeah, sort of enjoy the rest of my time in Japan this week and then probably, yeah, have a chat with Collis as to what I want to do. I'd love to get up for the Zatopek next month. Like you sort of touched on earlier before, there's really only 1 or 2 like track meets per year in Australia that are kind of worth getting up for. Zatopek's obviously one of them. So I'd love to see how I go. Yeah, mentally, it might take a little bit of time to get back into sessions, particularly the faster stuff. And wearing spikes for, 28, 29 minutes is, yeah, something I'm not looking forward to with this Achilles either. So I'll see how I go with that. I'll head to Falls Creek for most of January. I'd love to do like a Morigami or something early Feb. And then, yeah, depending on what the goals are for next year, either a marathon in that sort of March, April window, or push it back to like Gold Coast or something and chase some points.
Yeah. Yeah, interesting. Because it's like you want to capitalise and get in a super fast race and try to, dip under 210. But that might be better to hold off until start of July for Gold Coast and run 211, but get a shitload of points and then, yeah, try to qualify. Yeah, does it frustrate you that this is the situation you're in? Like back in the day when it was like, just here's the time, it's 2:12, go run it. Doesn't matter where or when.
It's a challenging one. Like the goalposts sometimes feel like they're constantly moving and you're just playing catch up. Yeah, I mean, like if you said like go run a fast course, like a fast time, you'd obviously just get on a plane to Europe or something and just go bury yourself at like Hamburg and just kind of tick that off. But now, if someone dangled an Australian jersey in front of me and I had to go run, 2:14 and place really high up locally, I'd do that as well. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I'm sort of running to make teams, so I'd love to sort of don the green and gold at a world champs or something moving forward. So I think that's probably the priority for this next bit. But then obviously wanting to run, sub 210 at some stage as well.
Yeah. Well, you're still young, mate. You got another 10 years to be doing. You only done 2 marathons as well. Like, I swear there's some saying that like you don't hit your best one to like 5 to 7 or something like that. I think Moose looked into it once. He did all the research on our, top 10 men and women and was like, yeah, they usually hit their PB after number 5 or something like that. So I probably could have just misquoted him massively there, but yeah, I swear there's some kind of stat like that. Hey, the move from Jacko to Collis, was that more of like a convenient thing in Brisbane and stuff, or why'd that come about? Because you guys had a lot of success with Jacko as well.
Yeah, it was probably twofold. When I joined Gold Coast Run Co, I was in the process of moving down the coast, so it sort of made sense to base my training group down there. So I was with those guys for a few years prior to COVID, during, and then after. But then once this osteitis pubis kicked in, I sort of moved back to Brisbane. It was difficult to kind of manage that and do these long drives as well. And then also, I guess, get coached remotely and sort of explain to Jacko like how my, glutes and adductors were feeling each workout because it was vastly different. I'd feel great one day and then not so the next. And then I was doing the Tuesdays with like Brucey and Cal and Jude, and then going down the coast on the Saturday, and those two workouts were basically identical. So I was kind of missing out on a key workout a week, and then I kind of, yeah, I guess reached out to Collis and sort of chat about my situation and goals and stuff. I'd met him at Falls Creek the season prior, and was kind of keen to jump on board with those guys. So yeah, sort of made that decision because I was based in Brisbane, but yeah, I was starting to, I guess, get a bit worn down with like the higher intensity stuff that Jacko was setting, and I don't think my body was sort of coping with that.
Yeah. Did you follow Collis when you were growing up? Like you watched him, knew who he was?
Yeah, I knew who he was, and yeah, his sort of highlights and yeah, career milestones and stuff. So he was, yeah, obviously like having that allure as a coach. He'd been there and done that. That was obviously really appealing as well because he could, even just talking through like my marathon and half marathon experiences, like Collis has kind of done that stuff, and he's coming from a place where he's been there and done it, so I can really lean on that as well. So that was something that yeah, I guess I gravitated towards.
One thing that I have no idea. This is from the outside looking in, but it felt like everyone was always trying to break those Australian records. And then Colescate took more of a coaching role at Melbourne Track Club, and then they both went down like not long afterwards. And I'm like, I wonder if how much he had to do with like any tweaks or mentorship of Sinead and Brett, or and maybe it was absolutely nothing. But I was like, I wonder if that's the factor that made the penny kind of drop and those times just yeah, go down.
Yeah, potentially. Yeah, it's hard for me to sort of comment on what the guys in like Melbourne and Adelaide and stuff are doing, but yeah, I know for me, like Collis is just like he's really well rounded with like his training philosophies. Like he's not someone that will like belt me for 6 weeks to get up for a certain race. It's like a 6 month, 12-month process. I knew when I kind of joined him last March. Unfortunately, I had sort of, 5 or 6 months where I wasn't really running with my injury, but I knew once I got back sort of September last year that, in 12 months time, I would start to reap the rewards. Like we don't really chop and change too much week to week. And I think it probably took me like 6 to 12 months to adjust, and I'm kind of seeing those benefits now.
Yeah, just that consistent running, like just a layer on top of layer. Hey,
That's it.
last one from me, mate. But who do you look up to in the sport, or like role models maybe outside the sport as well? Like, is there any kind of individuals, or maybe more than one that you're like, yeah, I enjoy the way they go about things, or draw inspiration from them?
Yeah, it's a funny one for me. Like even though I'm involved in running, I don't tend to follow it so much. I kind of like do my thing, and then you know, I kind of admire athletes that are doing different sports. I'm a huge basketball fan, cricket and AFL follower. Like growing up, it was like, Adam Gilchrist, Ricky Ponting were my heroes. I just loved watching those guys do their thing. And then the NBA as well. It's just like a genetic freak show. It's just like, I've
Yeah,
watched documentaries on like LeBron James and like the stuff he does for his recovery and sleep and nutrition and stuff. Like that's the stuff that really like motivates me. And it's like, well, these guys are at the pinnacle of their, sports. Like how are they doing things? Because I think at the end of the day, it's like nutrition and recovery. It's pretty much the same across all sports. So yeah, that's probably where I get my inspiration from.
even like the money involved, like the contracts and the high pressure. I was just talking about this morning at breakfast. My wife's just started watching that Starting Five doco,
Yep.
which I haven't watched yet, but we're kind of talking about how there's 3 seconds left and they all want the 3 point shot. Even when it's like, hey, they might even only need two to draw it, but they're like, give me the opportunity. Like they are just wired different, want to take it. And how, just as you said, like genetic kind of like freaks. And it's just sometimes feel like our sport's like super boring when you're just comparing it to, cricket and footy and, basketball. Like ours is very simple. We don't get to show off like those guys do.
I agree. Yeah, sometimes it just seems a bit vanilla. And then even just watching like American athletes Like Australia definitely has like tall poppy syndrome, whereas
Yeah,
over there they just hype each other up. It's sort of dog eat dog, but they just thrive off that stuff. Whereas if you're playing like a team sport here, you hear like interviews, post game. It's like, oh, I'd like to thank the teammates, and it's kind of the same dribble that gets spat out each time because they're
yeah.
just so well trained in the media.
Even the marketing and the documentaries and stuff, like it's just
Mm.
different leagues altogether. And I know there's way more money in it, so yeah, people don't need to write in and be like, yeah, but look at the income that some of these leagues generate. But yeah, I'm with you, and I think that's why we get attracted to it.
That's it, yeah. And I mean, like, even looking forward to like that Grand Slam athletics and stuff, I think hopefully that will put a bit more spice and sparkle into athletics and running in general. Because I think, obviously we're biased because we're long distance runners, but we'd have to be some of the most disciplined athletes. We don't get an off season, like footy players or basketball players. Unfortunately for us, it's year round. If you have 3 or 4 weeks of doing absolutely nothing, sitting on the couch playing Xbox, you're not going to condition yourself to be able to run well in 6 or 12 months' time. It's sort of non-stop. And because we're not sort of in the mainstream media a lot of the time, people really only see your name pop up at races. They don't appreciate what you do day in, day out. So it would be cool if we did get a bit more recognition. But again, we're not sort of bringing eyeballs to screens, unfortunately.
Yeah, I guess we just gotta. That's us in this little niche bubble. It's just like, how can we do our little bit to, promote it and things like that. But I bang my head against the wall sometimes, thinking like, oh, I wish this was. Even though I was like listening to SEN the other day, and they've got this guy. I think he's nearly on every Monday, like the crazy running man who is just running. I think he's trying to do. Oh shit! I should have this right. 100 Ks in 100 days, something like that, which is,
Yeah, okay.
super impressive. Like 100 Ks a day is massive. But there's days where they pretty much spend maybe like an 8-10 minute segment every Monday talking to this. I'm not sure if he's got he must have some kind of deal, or someone's given him this slot for every Monday for entertainment, and maybe people out there and saying, hey, that's more relatable. But I was just driving back from Melbourne the other day, and same thing, talking to my wife about it, and I'm like, imagine if that was just a 10-minute, what happened in the week of running. Like, hey, Liam Boudin, we got him coming on. This is his quick story, 10 minutes, ran 2:12 yesterday, Next week we got Andy and Izzy from Valencia. Next week it's just like, I was just like, oh, that's an opportunity. And it's, this guy's raising money for charity, and I'm not trying to have a crack at him at all. I'm just like, it's an opening that I wish, and it's mainstream, that I wish we could somehow open up somewhere.
Into. Yeah, I agree. And even just like for me personally, like, I'll do sometimes a 20K workout in the morning, think nothing of it, put the business shirt on, head to work, and no one really knows that I've just belted myself, at UQ. And then I'm sort of in the office an hour later. Like, they're just, because they're not aware of it, obviously, but I don't think that's anything special or to write home about. It's kind of, that's the lifestyle I've picked, and that's what I'm doing. But I hear stories of, footy players, they'll go do a workout for 2 hours from 9 a.m. to 11, and then they go spend the rest of the day playing PlayStation, and they're getting
in
paid.
the Normatec boots.
That's it, 6-7 figures a year. So yeah, it's frustrating. And then even like events like, if we had the Com Games in Melbourne, or looking forward to Brisbane in 2032, hopefully we get some locals doing really well there, then, governments, or big investors will start to splash a bit more money our way.
Yeah, we can talk about this all night, mate, but I am super grateful for your time, because as I said at the start, you're on holidays. Is there a question I should have asked you that I didn't? Did I miss anything about the life of Liam Boudin?
No, I don't think so. Yeah.
No more fun facts about yourself you can leave with the listeners?
No, I mean, I consider myself to be pretty plain kind of dude. I don't know if it's just us Brisbaneites, but yeah, we tend to kind of just keep to ourselves and tick along, I guess. Yeah, I don't know.
I think people respect that, though. I think they like it. Like, you guys, there's no ego. Maybe there's a few little egos, or maybe big egos in Brisbane, but I remember training with you guys. I remember I was up there the year Gold Coast got cancelled.
I remember that.
Yeah, I went up on the Tuesday, and it was like you, Timmy, Louie, and it's just like, he took me to a cafe afterwards. Archie was with me, and we're just like, you guys are all freak runners, but it was just like, it made people welcome, and it was like I was rocking up to a little park run, like the best runners in the area. Like, you you're very accommodating and just yeah, I know there's more than just you guys up there, but that little tight Jordo McLennan, like you guys are just the nicest guys getting around, and yeah, that's the kind of little special bubble of culture you got going up there.
Yeah, it's pretty cool. Like, I don't know, maybe it's a bit different because like Brisbane is obviously a lot smaller than Melbourne, particularly in like a running sense. Like, there's not the depth that we've got here as down south. So I think as well, if you're like, acting a bit up yourself or, sort of, steering down the wrong path, guys can kind of clip you down pretty quickly. So there's kind of just like naturally everyone just gets along really well. It's not a big place. If you sort of stand out for the wrong reasons, like we tend to just, not ostracize you, but it's like, well, you're not going to come on a long run if we don't want to hear you talk shit for 2 hours. Yeah, it's a really good group and a great place to train and live.
Yeah, beautiful, mate. Good spot to finish it. You put all your stuff on Strava, listeners, so if you want to follow Liam, that's a place to do it. Instagram as well. He's rocking the ASICS kit there, and yeah, it's all there, ready to go.
That's it. Yeah, sort of. I don't really describe too much of the workouts, but I tend to put sort of the splits and what I've done.
Yeah.
Kind of put it up there and then head to work and don't really think too much of it otherwise. But yeah, it's just a nice way of keeping track. I was sort of looking back at the sessions I was doing in the lead up to the Gold Coast, and it was cool to see the times were a bit quicker this time around and in sort of harsher weather conditions as well.
Well, even you got the little like Instagram highlights that Gold Coast and Japan. Like you can actually click there, and then you can see some of the workouts you've done in the lead up, and some of the footage you've kind of taken there, which I thoroughly enjoyed looking at today when I was researching for this.
Thank you. Yeah, well, I'm glad someone's enjoying my Instagram. So.
That was me on a Wednesday. What day is it? No, Tuesday. Tuesday, Arvo. I spent a long time looking at that today. Thanks, mate. I know the listeners will love that chat. And yeah, once again, appreciate you giving us an hour of your holiday time when you're in Japan. And yeah, get to the 7-Elevens, get to the food marts, get to the Lawsons, start enjoying the local cuisine.
That's it. Yeah, I'll probably head out there after this for a cheeky bite or something. But yeah, no, I appreciate your time, Brady. Thanks so much for having me on. It's been a pleasure.
Set your new PB at the ASICS Gold Coast Marathon. Make sure you grab your entry before they sell out. Head to goldcoastmarathon.com.au for more info.
I've heard all your names. If it's all the same, I'll keep on walking.